Now I'm going to import an image. I went and I redid an image for a quote label, JPG. There we go. And I did a couple of, why aren't I getting, no, that's not what I want. I want large icons. There we go, there they are. Right, that was the hand script. That was English. Now I actually like the English font. The reason is, when I first was taught to write, I was taught what is now called cursive. We didn't call it cursive. We had to learn to write using what was known as copperplate. So every time we made a letter, and I will use one of these, if you did the letter A, you started there, and you worked your way around your shape. You would travel to the top, you would come down, and then you had to make, that's a wee bit too sharp there, and you had to make a lead into the next letter. Maybe not quite so curvy as that, but that was the idea. And then you would do your B, and our B's, when I was taught, did not have a closed upward leg. You came up, you made a loop, and of course we used good old-fashioned 4-line paper, and you'd come down, and then you'd put a little curve there, and then you'd continue at an angle to meet the next letter after, wrong node, there we go, after you had closed that, then you made your next curve up. Only I hit the wrong button. And that would lead you then, when you did start to do big people's joined up writing, your next letter, in this case, would have been a C. And so you continued. And you always started that next, or you put a tail on the end, ready to take you into the next letter. And at first it was difficult, because when you're a child you don't understand how important it is to get these link-ups in. But once you start, it becomes very easy. But of course now a lot of schools, they don't bother with the start of the upstrokes. You come, you put your leg down, finish. Consequently, there are an awful lot of adults, in this country at least, who when they write do not know how to do what we call longhand, or, as children call it, joined up writing. So I started in my school, where I was working, doing the old-fashioned alphabets. Yes, it did take the children maybe a week, if that long. I mean, it was a couple of days in most children's cases, getting used to making these loopy bits. And one of the main exercises I had them doing was this kind of thing. Coming up, making a pattern, and going all the way along, meeting the top line on their 4-lined paper. I don't know if you had them when you were at school. I know we certainly did. You had 2 center lines were red, 2 outer lines were either blue or black, and that told you the bottom of your loops had to meet the bottom line, top of your loops had to meet the top line, and the center of your letters had to lie between the 2 red lines. And every join, this is what I used to have mine doing, and this is what I encourage digitizers to do as well, because if nothing else, it gets you used to using your left and right nodes, and it's a very good exercise for learning to control the mouse and the nodes. Now it used to be that I did that, I would suggest they do this, but I know not many people took my suggestions up. They wanted to go straight in and learn to digitize. Now, we used to have to make a connector that ran from that point to to that point, just as that does there. And we would go along the whole line and we do this. Right the way across the sheet. And our old handwriting Echo books, we used to call them Ecchi books, exercises, would be full of patterns like this before we started actually doing individual letters. And we would do them with crayons or soft pencils. So by the time we came to learning to form our letters, we'd already got a wrist that was very good at manipulating the writing implement. It's seen as old-fashioned now, but if you do the same using your mouse and your digitizing software, you do get good at realizing where to place your nodes. Now you don't actually have to stitch these out, but it does help. But if you just practice every day for a few minutes and make the various shapes, make yourself a row of circles and think about an O. And what a nightmare it is for children to make that and make it look nice and neat. An O doesn't go from top to bottom. Actually, that should have had a straight in it somewhere. You can tell it's a while since I've done these exercises. It's very naughty of me, because if you're going to tell others to do them, you should really be doing them yourself. And just make a series of O's. And you just curve that one, you come down to the bottom, and you lay your next line in for setting up your next zero. You'll start seeing how you can make patterns out of these to use in your software. And not only that, you're training your hand and your eye together. And that will help doing small labels. Because once your eye and your hand coordinate properly, that's half your battle done. So anyway, let's get rid of these. And you know, it really doesn't matter what software you use, because for small lettering, although in MBX now we do have some extremely good small letters, but I'm not going to bother showing you because you don't have the alphabets in the in the Digitizer 10,000 that we've got in MBX. So it would be a little bit unfair of me. Anyway, that's my image. That's my quilt title, Dreamer. Made by Mags for Fidget Features, which is my nickname for my grandson, because he cannot keep still for more than a split second. And there's the date. Now, I know most people put the little dividers in. I don't much care for them. You've got too short a distance if you're going to trim, and in Digitizer 10,000 you've got to insert your own trims. The program won't make them. In MBX version 3, Digitizer, no, not Digitizer Pro 1, I think it was Digitizer Pro 2, introduced trimming codes in one of its updates. So now in the next video, now that I've given you that little bit of, come on, do a bit of exercising and practice with your mouse and everything else, we're going to start digitizing some of this. And you will be disappointed with what you see initially, because I have to digitize up around 400 at least. And when you're doing run line stitch, you've got to remember every stitch is a straight line, but you can't drop your stitch length below a certain size. So you don't go mad and slavishly put a node, a node, a node, a node, a node, a node. Sounds like anodes. You don't put millions of nodes around the shape, because every time you actually click your mouse, you are interrupting the stitch engine and forcing it to put a needle penetration there. And if they're too close together, you'll end up with lots of little stitches all clumped together in one spot. Now I want you to think about something. Size of your needle. That's very bad drawing of a needle. I've got a good excuse. I can't see for toffee. Okay, has a groove. opens out to make a hole for the thread to pass through, and it closes up again. Your needle size is the diameter of the shaft. As the needle goes through the fabric, if it's a size 9 needle, it creates a hole that is 9/10 of a millimeter. Now, as long as it didn't actually cut the thread it went through, there's a good chance that those threads will close up and hide that hole. If you use a size 11, that means the diameter of your needle is 1.1 millimeters. Your thread, let me just draw 2 threads. One, there we go, that's 2 threads. Your thread measures 4/10 of a millimeter. So there already we've got 8/10 of a millimeter. And if you've got a tight density, that thread can be sitting on top of this thread practically. Your needle, if your hoop doesn't move far enough, could end up penetrating the same hole that the first stitch pass made. So think about that, because if your hoop only goes that far, because you've asked it to make too teeny a stitch, your next needle penetration could actually fall back into that one, and you end up with a little tight clump of stitching which all goes through your original needle penetration, and that is the very last thing you want. There you go. I'm going to just blow that up. That makes a tight little knot of stitches, and it's a killer for your machine, and it's a killer for your fabric. It's also a killer for your hoop, because you're not giving it a chance to move. So don't make your stitches too short. You've got to keep them nice and open. Right, let me get rid of that magnifying glass. Escape, thank you, and highlight that. Hold down Shift, tell that little lot. No, I can't now, I've done it that way. 1 Shift Delete button on my keyboard, and let's come down from 6400 back to 100%. Okay, next video we're going to digitize some of the letters in this. So I'll see you in a moment.